International. How are you? Morning. Yesterday you were feeling very cold, right? So you joined online. Okay. Good morning, everybody. How are you doing today? All good? Today is better. Better than yesterday.
Yes.
Every day is better than yesterday. To start on a philosophical note. Right. Thank you. So I guess we are now well acquainted with the penalties, are we? Right? And we are also well acquainted with the processes that an institution has to undertake whenever there are allegations of misconduct. So for taking care of all allegations that may arise because of misconduct, they have to be referred to the institutional academic integrity panel or the scientific investigation board. And depending upon whether the documentation has been able to prove innocence or guilty, penalties will be decided, and the penalties have to be decided as per the UGC, as per the norms. So I have already made you aware of the penalties that are there. Then I'd also shown you how the similarity check looks like. I told you about the tools that are available to you. So we generally use two tools, Turnitin and Drillbit, or Authenticate and Drillbit. Coming to redundant publications. This is another kind of misconduct. So redundant publication occurs when two or more papers without full cross-reference share the same hypothesis, data, discussion points, or conclusions. Published studies do not need to be repeated unless further confirmation is required. Okay? So you can refer to your previous results and you can build upon those results. So you, in every paper, you need to have some new results to report. Okay, even in conferences, when you present in conferences, yeah, I mean it's a good practice not to report totally published data, because in a conference you want feedback for your work. You want kind of validation. You're seeking validation. So if the work is already published, there's no need to present it in the conference. So previous publication of an abstract during the proceedings of meetings does not preclude subsequent submission for publication, because while you're presenting a paper in the conference, it's understood that it's not the full story yet, right? So it's part of the story. So you can proceed for publication later on. Republication of a paper in another language is acceptable provided there is full and prominent disclosure of its original source. Okay, and at the time of submission. Like we can convert our papers in another language because probably we want the paper to be accessible to the masses. English ka paper, if we get it translated into Hindi or the regional language or Urdu or any other language, so that's not a problem. We just have to make a disclosure. At the time of submission, authors should disclose details of related papers, even if in different language, and similar papers in press. Okay, ये तो समझ में आ गया है आपको पहले भी. You are a bright class, so good. Authors have an obligation to make sure their paper is based upon original, never before published research. This is a known fact. Intentionally submitting or resubmitting work for duplicate publication is considered as a breach of publication ethics. So intentional, unintentional भी क्यों ही होगा, right? Because unless you are, sleepwalking, you do not have control over what you are doing, right? Then only we would go for this. Simultaneous submission occurs when a person submits a paper to different publications at the same time, which can result in more than one journal publishing that particular paper. It doesn't happen, it doesn't come to that because if somebody has submitted the paper simultaneously to two journals, so after getting the review, you may withdraw it from one of the journals. But it's not a good practice. I have told you right in the beginning, simultaneous submission is not a good practice. It's an unethical practice. So we should refrain from simultaneous submissions. Okay, and we can refrain from them by going to journal finder, finding the journals which have a very short, not very short, but a reasonably short turnover time, and we can proceed for publication there. Duplicate multiple publication occurs when two or more papers without full cross reference share essentially the same hypothesis. Now, sometimes it can be an honest thing also, right? Honest in the sense like there may be people thinking in the same direction. So that's not a problem, right? Why that's not a problem? Because we may have people thinking in the same direction, publishing around the same time. So that's not a problem. The problem is that if you copy their work, fine. This can occur in varying degrees, literal duplication, partial, substantial duplication, or duplication by paraphrasing. So this is all about redundant publications. You can go through this table on your own because I think I have talked about most of the stuff that is written here. You can now very well see what are the actions that can be done and cannot be done, do's and don'ts, right? ये वाला chart तो अब आप समझ पाएंगे खुद ही से. So I will not go into details of this chart because I have talked about most of the stuff which is lying in this chart. Salami slicing we had discussed yesterday. What is salami slicing? Slicing of research that can form one meaningful paper into several different papers is called salami publication. It can result in what is the problem with salami slicing? It distorts the literature. It inundates the literature with too much of stuff, meaningless stuff. So if you have one good paper, it's giving you the same results, giving the same inference. Do not break the paper down into four different papers. Fine. What does it do? What does this problem? Why is it an unethical practice? Because it screws the scientific database. It creates repetition that wastes. It doesn't only waste readers' time; it wastes the reviewers' time also. Fine. Time is money. Time is important. Salami, because from a big loaf of bread, you are slicing pieces of different individual pieces of bread. इसीलिए सलामी कह रहे हैं. सलामी is food ना, hot dog में रखा रहता है, right? उसी सलामी को single log में ना खा के हम chop करके खा रहे हैं. But it's an unethical practice because we are wasting the time of reviewers as well as the readers, and we are also flooding the scientific database. A PubMed there's a lot of we do not think meaningfully in the sense like when we are using this internet and servers and all, they are creating a lot of heat, right? They are contributing towards climate change. So just जितना हम उसको flood करेंगे unnecessary stuff से, उतना ही climate sustainability भी affect होगी. So we have to be mindful of our behavior. It may look meaningless for you, but it does have meaning because whatever our actions are, they have impact on the environment, directly or indirectly. All right. Dealing with misconduct. So the general principle confirming misconduct is intention to cause others to regard as true what is not true. Okay. So firstly, whenever if the allegation has been made, what will the IAP do? Okay. So allegation has to be in written, मतलब anonymous नहीं होना चाहिए, isn't it? So the पहला rule है, anonymous allegation नहीं होना चाहिए. The person who is putting the complaint has to name himself or herself, right? And then the committee would try to see whether this error was honest or not, right? So the committee has to act fairly. They do not have to assume that this allegation is, the person is guilty. The person is innocent until proven guilty. In every case, whether it's research misconduct or any other, misconduct, the person is innocent unless proven guilty, right? So here also we will apply that principle. The general principle confirms misconduct, so the committee would try to see whether this error was honest, whether there was an intentional. When we use this word intentional, we mean that we were in our senses when we were doing this practice, malpractice. So if it was intentional, then there's no, then the documentary proof would be collected. In either case, the documentary proof will be collected. So examination of misconduct must therefore focus not only on the particular act or omission, but also on the intention of the researcher, author, editor, reviewer or publisher involved. है ना, कहते हैं ना नियत देखना है जरूरी है. So उस person का intention क्या था? Was it, did he or she had a motto? So the committee would want to see what was the motto. There is a point, there is a checklist for the committee members also. So one point is whether there was some motto for the researcher or somebody or the scholar to do this. Motto means like whether he or she wanted to get the PhD faster, whether there was a pending promotion. Okay, deception may be by intention or by reckless disregard of possible consequences or by negligence, right? So if it was by negligence, if it's proven that it was a careless mistake, then the penalty would be decided accordingly. Okay? But वो प्रूव करना पड़ेगा, ऐसे नहीं assume कर सकते हैं कि ये intentional नहीं था. It is implicit, therefore, that best practice requires complete honesty with full disclosure. So course of practice may raise awareness but can never be exhaustive. They cannot be exhaustive because we cannot have code for everything, right? So it largely depends upon your own moral compass. Investigating misconduct. Editors should not simply reject papers that raise questions of misconduct. Okay, so this is a guideline for editors. They don't have to simply reject papers that have red flags. They are editors are also ethically obliged to pursue the case. ठीक है? So अपना ही judgment नहीं use करना है उन्हें. They have obligation to pursue the case, gather evidence, and on the basis of evidence, they have to prove that okay, this person was guilty. Cope is always willing to advise, but for legal reasons can only advise on anonymized cases. It is for the editor to decide what action to take. If there is serious misconduct, editors must take all allegations and suspicions of misconduct seriously, but they must recognize that they do not usually have either the legal legitimacy नहीं है. People from law would understand that, right? It's an advisory. Okay, so it's for the institutions to decide what kind of penalty they want to give or the processes. Okay, like processes means the authorities, whichever is governing the system. The editor must decide when to alert the employers of the accused authors. All right. So they sent the message. They asked the author to respond. All the authors, corresponding author, and all the authors. If they are not satisfied, they would ask the employers. because affiliation matters. Like if you're publishing a paper using the affiliation of integral university, so there are chances that we'll be asked for the data. If the employers have a process for investigating accusations as they are increasingly required to do so, then editors do not need to assemble a complete case, right? So they generally do not assemble a complete case. It's for the employers, like the institution. So basically, every institution has a IAIP or SIP. They're similar in nature. Like the jobs are similar, the names are different. Only the names are different. If the experts find no evidence of misconduct, the editorial processes should proceed in the normal way. If presented with convincing evidence of serious misconduct, where there is no employer to whom this can be referred, sometimes what happens, the people might have left the place, right? People are always on the move, so they may have left the institution, or they may have joined some other place, or left the jobs completely. So such cases, if they are registered doctors, the cases can be referred to general medical council. अगर ये मेडिकल बायोमेडिकल मैल प्रैक्टिस है, ओके, अगर उनने वो प्लेस छोड़ दिया है तो जिस प्लेस में अभी अफिलिएशन है वहां पर भी जाएगा रेड फ्लैग कि ओके दिस पर्सन हैड इंडल्ज्ड इन malpractice earlier. And if it is related to medical practitioners, so National Medical Council या General Medical Council जो भी उस country की body होगी उस पे चला जाएगा. Authors should be given the opportunity to respond to accusations of serious misconduct. Should be given क्या है, like authors are given opportunity to respond to the accusations. So they are always given ample time to submit the evidence. If the misconduct is less serious, so the editors may judge that it's not necessary to involve employers. Okay, so see, again we are talking about severity of the misconduct. So I told you like minor cases of copy paste is fine. It's not fine, but it will be considered as a lesser misconduct. But if you're copying data set, if you're copying figures, tables, then it is a case of serious misconduct. So for less serious misconduct, editors may judge that it's not necessary to involve employers, such as redundant publication, deception over authorship, or failure to declare conflict of interest. These three are some of the malpractices which are not considered so serious. Which ones? Failing to disclose conflict of interest, or redundant publication, deception over authorship, or maybe plagiarism in introduction or some other part of the paper. But that doesn't mean that it's kosher, like you can do it. No. Why? Sometimes the evidence may speak for itself, although it may be wise to appoint an independent expert. So everybody should have an independent expert, and these bodies also are required to have an independent expert who is autonomous, who will not get swayed by your opinion. Editors should remember that accusation of even minor misconduct may have serious implications for the authors, and it may then be necessary to ask the employers to investigate. Authors should be given, okay, fine, they are given the opportunity again. All right, so consequences of scientific misconduct. It could mean the end to career as a researcher. The end, okay. Yeah. So this, you cannot say कि अब picture अभी बाकी है, क्योंकि नहीं बाकी है. The end हो सकता है. Scholar का इसलिए because वो तो शुरू ही कर रहा है अपना career. And maybe like PI is already thought कि yesterday I had given you an example कि shortcut है अपना career end करने का. Right? So grounds these can the consequences for scientific misconduct could mean the end to a career as a researcher, grounds for dismissal of tenured faculty. So it can become a ground for dismissal of a tenured faculty. Tenured faculty is a permanent faculty, kind of, right? Forfeiture of research grants. So if you are a PI on a funded research grant on a government funded project or a non-government agency funded project, you may have to forfeit the grant. Sometimes you may have to return the money too. Okay, so it's not like you have consumed the money, utilized it, and you cannot give it. What have you utilized it on? Fabricating data, right? The committee may ask, like, what have you used it for? For fabricating data. So obviously you have not used the money. So please pay the money back, right? You may be blacklisted. For example, reputable research organizations and universities may refuse to hire. Funding sources refuse to sponsor research work. Journals refuse to consider any articles for publication. Fabricators may have previously earned academic credentials taken away. For example, in 2004, Sean was stripped of his doctoral degree by University of Constance after a committee formed by Bell Labs found him guilty of fabrication related to research done during his employment there. So this person lost the tenure faculty. It's a real case. And there are many other real cases that have been adding on to the list. A letter of explanation and education to authors where there appears to be a genuine misunderstanding of principles. So maybe because of lack of awareness, because of lack of understanding, or because of your careless nature, you were not able to follow guidelines properly. And if the misconduct was not very serious, you may have to submit a letter of explanation. A letter of reprimand and warning as to future conduct, a formal letter to the relevant head of institution or funding body. So the employer will write to the funding body, okay, XYZ should not be given funds anymore. Publication of a notice of redundant publication or plagiarism, and editorial giving the full details of the misconduct. Okay, sometimes, I think if we get time, I'll show you that case study, or you can read that case study on your own. There was a very beautiful commentary that had been woven as a story following the path of a author who had been committing misconduct since the start of the career, right? And if I have access to that article, I'll share it on the group because it's an interesting story and a very it can give you good lessons. So that story, that mini commentary was an editorial on malpractices of a particular author, giving the story about how the animals used in the study survived for such a long time, because when they checked the data, the pictures that were shown in a previous paper 20 years back were also used in a paper which was submitted 20 years later. So the editorial means 10 साल पहले या 20 साल पहले जो स्टडी हुई थी उसमें पिक्चर्स, हिस्टोपैथोलॉजिकल पिक्चर्स आए होंगे. The same pictures were passed on as new evidence in a newer paper 20 years later. So the commentary started with this, like, these are immortal mice, which the scientist has been, working on, because he's been getting the same kind of results 20 years later also, right? So it was a very interesting piece. I'll share it with you. Refusal to accept future submissions from the individual unit or institution responsible for misconduct for a stated period. I told you the cooling off period. It can be 2 years, it can be 1 year, depending upon the severity. Formal withdrawal or retraction of the paper from scientific literature, informing other editors and the indexing authorities. Event offline, I think we'll have to call the fellow. All right, so nowadays we also get alerts for, like, we have PubMed alerts. PubMed is the public medical library. So we get PubMed alerts for paper publications. Similarly, we get alerts for retractions too. Right, so we would get, if you subscribe to those alerts, you will get alerts for the retraction. So whichever a paper is getting retracted from the scientific literature, you will get an alert. So now you would want, why I am required to get these alerts? How will I benefit? How will you benefit from these alerts? Are you getting any other kind of alerts on your phone right now? Tell me.
Not to answer fraud calls.
Huh?
Not to answer fraud calls or emotional calls.
Why is it necessary?
You have for your bank.
Why is it necessary for the government or anybody to send you these alerts?
To educate, to make us aware.
To make you aware, right? To make you aware so that you do not fall for such scams, right? Okay, but still people fall for scams, right? Retraction alert is an alert which you will keep on getting because it's an alert so that you do not cite that paper or do not use that particular paper for your hypothesis or study design, right? So it's basically saving you from uh, making a shoddy proposal. Fine. So this is why these retraction alerts are important, and now we are getting them. You will get them through your email, because when you'll make your Scopus ID or any other ID, which this Scopus ID and other IDs are necessary for you. You should be on ResearchGate also. क्या हुआ? Fine. Thank you. इधर पहुंचे थे आप? All right. Oh, this one. ये हम कर चुके हैं ना पहले?
60.
ये वाला हो गया, तो ये तो सही है, रिट्रैक्शन हो गया पेपर का. Okay, refusal to accept future submissions, retraction of the paper, so you were getting retraction alerts, reporting the case to the General Medical Council or any such authority. So sometimes the misconduct may be major, so we have to report the case to the proper agency. Medical Council है या Bar Council है या Pharmaceutical DCGI है, Drug Controller General of India. So it depends upon the misconduct, and whichever body is governing, is your governing body, you have to report that case. So these are the SOPs. You can take a picture or you can just go through it when I share the presentation. So all the cases have to be investigated by SIP. Every institution is mandatory for institutions to have SIP or IAIP. Why? So this is a good cartoon which is telling us about what drives people to commit misconduct. Okay, the first and foremost responsibility we have given on the supervisors, poor supervisor, poor supervision, inadequate training. It all boils down to poor supervision, poor training. Okay, so if you are unprofessional in your behavior, right? Unprofessional as in you are professionals, going to be professionals, right? If you are unprofessional in your behavior at your workplace, what does the new employer think? What does that fellow think?
Very casual attitude and not to be trusted for any of the
important responsibilities, right? And it also sometimes reflects on the training that you have got in your previous institutions, or training you have been given in your previous, in the places where you have graduated from, right? So if you are unprofessional, it directly reflects upon the training that you have received during maybe your schooling. School is very small. During your post-graduation, during the doctoral studies. So if you will be graduating from our institution, if you're unprofessional in your behavior, it will directly reflect upon the training. So that's why poor supervision and inadequate training has been put at the top. Fine. Poor supervision, why? Poor supervision can constitute multiple things. The guide has no intention to guide you, right? Probably not having enough time, just doing it for fun. But it's not fun. It's a responsibility. I have been telling you from the beginning. It's a responsibility. We are training our student in such a manner so that he can train somebody else independently, right? That is the fundamental understanding that every guide should have. Fine. So poor supervision would mean that the guide is also inaccessible. The guide cannot be inaccessible. A doctoral studies guide cannot be inaccessible. He or she needs to understand your circumstances, right? So what is the mantra? Like, how are you going to make it possible? To be connected with the supervisor, right? On a regular basis, right? Generally the guides get offended. They do not want to hear your stories because you may suddenly pop up someday. Okay, today is my RDC. Tomorrow is my RDC. Please look at my slides, right? So obviously, I mean, which guide will want to stick their head in such a sticky situation? So if you're doing your work, be connected with your guide. Communicate openly. आपको प्रॉब्लम आ रही है एक्सपेरिमेंट में, tell them. I had even given an extreme example. I had given you an example कि you should be, your guide should be so accessible कि you should be able to tell your guide कि okay, I don't feel like doing work today. I'm not in the mental state, right? It's okay. Sometimes we do not feel like doing work, right? So we should be able to share that kind of. It's an ideal world, but you will require this kind of communication in PhD. It's 4 long years, right? At least 4 years, right? At least for people who have to do wet lab. Right? So open communication. I was scared. Why were you scared? To go to my BI, right? You don't have to be scared. You are our contemporaries, not contemporaries as in, uh, stature or experience. You are our responsibility. You have to communicate with the guide. So you don't have to be scared, period. इसमें scared की क्या बात है? आप कर पाने चाहिए ना communicate जो भी problem है. हर टाइम प्रॉब्लम ही नहीं होती है. Whatever, the result is not, I mean, you're not getting the results. You have to troubleshoot. Okay? So if you do not tell your guide that I'm not getting the results, this is the problem I'm facing, how are you going to troubleshoot? I was scared should go from your dictionary. I'm emphasizing on this. I'm wasting a lot of time, here. I'm spending a lot of time, not wasting. And I'm spending this time on purpose because this is something which has led to lot of malpractices. You were scared, you don't have to be scared. Fine. He used to scream and yell. I mean, this is another problem. Why would somebody scream and yell? तो ऐसे अब आजकल नहीं होते हैं गाइस. आजकल तो सब सिविल होते हैं. तो वही अगेन ट्रेनिंग की बात आती है, right? Scream and yell. Somebody would scream and yell because the person was not trained well. Okay? उनकी भी ट्रेनिंग की बात आ रही है, सुपरवाइजर की भी एंड आपके भी ट्रेनिंग की बात आ रही है. सो you don't have to be scared. Poor supervision, inadequate training, inadequate. After 2 years of a postdoctoral fellowship, I still don't know how to properly publish Western blot data. It's just an example. So poor training. Nobody was, I mean, even after 2 years, the person has no clue about how the data has to be presented, right? So why does he or she have clue? Because both supervisor and the student did not get time to reflect on the data. So that is why journal club meetings, journal club, like where you present somebody else's work, or lab meetings, data meetings are very important and they should be held periodically. And the periodicity has to be mutually chosen by the guide and the supervisor. Periodicity, समझ रहे हैं ना? Like whether once a month, twice a month, once in 2 months, the periodicity you have to decide with your guide. And अगर गाइड नहीं टाइम निकाल पा रहे हैं तो फिर उनको परस्यू करिए. ऐसे तो नहीं, ऐसे नहीं बन सकते हैं सुपरवाइजर. टाइम निकालना है उन्हें भी. फाइन, 2 years के बाद इन्हें पता नहीं लगा कैसे डेटा प्रेजेंट करना है. Probably ये डेटा मीटिंग्स नहीं होल्ड कर रहे थे, तो inadequate training थी. Okay. We see, I mean, I feel very sad because we see a lot of people coming for jobs and they are not employable because they have never seen an actual lab setting. So, how can we employ them? They may be doctoral students. I mean, they may have completed doctorates from very renowned universities. I would not name the university, but it is very sad to see that they have not actually seen a lab setting. So think about what they must have published in their thesis, right? Competitive pressures. I felt it was necessary to get a paper in a high profile journal in order to get a faculty position, right? Now that faculty position will go because if they come to know that you have acquired this paper through wrongful means, the faculty position will go definitely, है ना? So pressure क्यों feel करना है promotion का? हमेशा अपने आप को like you have to be stable enough, you have to train your mind. This requires a lot of mind training, strength of your mind, that you have to train your mind that you have to be better than what you were yesterday, not that how better I can be from X, Y, and Z. Competition should be always healthy. Healthy. It should not be detrimental to your health, and it should not force you to compromise on your ethics, on your work, right? So compete with yourself. Try to be a better version of your own self. And if you're competing with your peers, compete in a healthy way. Take help from them. Give them help. Hold each other. Don't leave the peer also behind. If you're better in something, train that fellow. Insecurity की कोई जगह नहीं है दुनिया में, नहीं होनी चाहिए, because you are with your own unique talent. The other person has his her own unique talent. So there's place for everybody. Do you agree with me, or do you think that I'm giving you ideal, some situation which belongs to an ideal world? All these pressures come because you are living in an insecure world. You don't have to be insecure, right? Be secure in your abilities. Help others be where you want to be. Somebody who is lagging behind. तो आप सब लोग प्रोग्रेस करेंगे, ऐसा नहीं है. कोई आपका प्रोग्रेस छीनेगा नहीं. Fine. So pressures of getting going ahead where? हाँ? नहीं तो फिर satisfaction भी आना चाहिए ना. इस मतलब ये like misconduct करने के बाद उस faculty position मिलने के बाद क्या satisfaction मिल रहा है? मिलेगा? और अगर मिल रहा है तो then again it's a problem. अगर आप मिल रहा है तो फिर वो प्रॉब्लम आपके फंडामेंटल behavior mein hai. So maybe the lady from psychology can give us more insights on this. Fine. Maybe हम कभी group discussion कर सकते हैं इस पे philosophies पे. No, most of our problems are because we are competitive in nature, jealous in nature. So we have to leave those insecurities. You are young, right? You don't have to get into these nitty-gritties. Personal circumstances. I had been applying for a green card. Okay, this is in context to United States. So the person had been applying for a green card, required a lot of good high-profile papers. So that is why the person was forced to, pressured to perform misconduct, right? Individual psychology. Half of me wanted to make my PI proud. The other half was terrified of failing. So I fabricated a piece of data. Okay? डर लग गया तो डरना नहीं है क्योंकि डर के आगे जीत है एमबीए बच्चे ऐड याद दिला रहे हैं मुझे सो मे बी यू कैन कम अप विद इनोवेटिव ऐड focused around fear of failure, right? Failures are stepping stones to success. Remember it, right? Failure is not a failure; it is a other way of not getting the correct result. Right ethically. So from start to finish, right ethically from start to finish. Checklist फिर से याद करिए अपना. Fine. So what will you do? Prepare. Have a thorough understanding of your sources. Fine. Have a thorough understanding of your sources. How many sources did we have? Primary and secondary. Use primary literature. Secondary sources may have misinterpreted the work. We had talked about it yesterday, right? So write ethically from start to finish. You are starting when you are preparing. So cite the correct sources. Cite your sources. Do not plagiarize. Quote verbatim text. Maintain the intended meaning of the source. Maintain the intended meaning. Don't innovate. Try to understand the correct context, whatever it was meant. Avoid selective reporting. Fine? Avoid selective reporting. When you reach publication, only include those who have made substantial contribution to a project. So gift authorship is unethical. Avoid ghost authors. So give proper authorship or acknowledgement to those who have contributed to a paper. Fine? And if you want to learn more, go to this website. Coming on to predatory journals, right? So it's a big economy.
Well, in that discussion was based on individual centric. The researcher who is going to perform, he is not aware. But in this discussion, we can see that the environment where he is performing the research, the institution with the supervisor group, these intents or these factors are having more importance in his quality.
It's an ecosystem.
So, ma'am, all the regulatory or such kind of controlling bodies are controlling only researcher or
No, they're controlling all. It's an ecosystem. So researcher, you are a researcher, I am a researcher, right?
because there are authorities who can control the institutions and authorities also.
Yes.
Because sometimes institutions or such kind of research environments are also indulge in such some malpractices to increase the number of researchers.
बिल्कुल.
Right.
तो उनके लिए भी bodies है. And अभी NIRF ranking के लिए NIRF National Institutional Ranking Framework, right? So they now cut marks for every retracted paper. So if you were getting 1 mark for a paper, 1 mark for a paper, they're deducting 5 marks for every retraction. So more the number of retractions, more marks will be deducted from your source. So they have included penalty for retractions. Okay, so it's not like we are working in an island. institutions are also governed by guidelines. We are talking more about researcher because he or she is the major stakeholder, right? So if we train him or her, we'll be training other higher ups too. Fine. So yeah, guidelines are for everybody, for the entire ecosystem. It's an ecosystem.
Last slide, ma'am, showing that more responsibility towards institution and research conducting.
Gee. So predatory journals, it's an industry, okay? Predatory journals are, it's an industry, like people have now decided to become entrepreneurs by opening publication houses, small publication houses who publish from one room apartments. They gather articles and then they publish from very shoddy publications they publish in a very short time, and they make money out of it, right? And they feed upon your insecurities, right? है ना? आपके पास टाइम नहीं है रिसर्च करने का, तो क्या करते हैं आप क्या करेंगे? Okay, so you will hire ghostwriters? Will hire or can hire?
Can.
So there's a difference. So what is the point of having this? So will you still hire ghost writers?
No, ma'am.
Are you are saying no? No, you should not hire ghost writers. When will you learn to write if you hire ghost writers? So yeah, predatory journals are coming out from these cartels, syndicates that are hiring ghost writers. अभी आप किसी के भी LinkedIn पेज पे जाइए, किसी भी MSc के बच्चे के LinkedIn पेज पे जाइए, उसने लिखा होगा राइटर, एडिटर XYZ, राइट? वो किस चीज का एडिटर है? यही राइटर, इसी के लिए कंटेंट राइटर. सो कंटेंट क्या राइट कर रहे हो? किसी का रिसर्च पेपर राइट कर रहे हैं. अच्छा वो है, like it's a good opportunity to for quick money, but again you have to reflect upon and leave you on this reflection, right? You have to reflect upon how much you are contaminating the research landscape. हमारे landscapes होते हैं ना, गोमती river is an asset, right? Our water bodies are our assets and other, nature is our asset. So उसको जैसे contaminate करके, like in Delhi in few years we may have to carry our own oxygen cylinders. So will everybody be able to afford that? So who is responsible for this pollution? Unregulated growth, right? Isn't it? Unethical practices again, because people were allowed to have industries, polluting industries, right? So ऐसे ही होगा, research landscape का भी ऐसे ही होगा. So predatory journals are a reality. What are predatory journals? Predatory name है इनका. Predatory. So predate, they prey, predator and prey. It's the predatory journal. The name has come from the relationship of predator and prey. So who is the prey? You are, right? And predator is somebody who is running the publishing house. So predatory journals are open access journals that publish articles online with little or no peer review, low academic standards, and little credibility. So total, most of the articles in this are shoddy. They are garbage because the entire data is fabricated. They exist to publish scholarly journal articles for authors who require publications for their curriculum vitae, CV, number of publications. Predatory journals profit from author fees, often from authors who cannot afford the fees required for more reputable pay-for-publication journals. Numerous journals appeared throughout the earlier 2000, promised quick publication. So yeah, I was telling you that when you go to Journal Finder, you should look at the turnover time. So you also have to be careful whether this turnover, even if the turnover time is less, 14 days, So you still have to see whether the journal is credible, has credible, what do you say, uh, reputation. So it should be reputed, it should be indexed. Right? तो ये दो चीजें देखना है, खाली टर्नओवर टाइम नहीं देखना है कि 14 दिन में पब्लिश कर रहा है. You have to also see whether the journal is reputable or not, because the hallmark hallmark of a predatory journal is that it will publish your paper overnight. आज भेजा कल पब्लिश हो जाएगा, लिखेंगे भी वही. बस you have, they'll quote a, you know, they'll quote a price if you are ready to pay the price. So they will write the paper for you, they'll publish it for you in 24 hours, right? Without any peer review. So numerous journals appeared throughout the early 2000s, promising quick publication, high acceptance rate, and low author fee. It's estimated, ये तो ठीक है, किन्होंने दिया था? How to identify a predatory journal? Some have similar names to now. Yeah, how would you identify a predatory journal? It's very difficult because they are very, savvy. The entrepreneurs who are running these predatory journals, they are very savvy because they have cloned the website, they have created mirrors, they have created names which are similar to Q1, Q2 journals. Like for example, Journal of Biological Chemistry is a reputable journal in our field, right? Okay, so what they would do is they would add the Journal of Biological Chemistry, small सा कुछ prefix use करेंगे, but website पूरा JBC के website की तरह होगा. So there is a chance, if you're not careful, you would end up submitting paper to the wrong JBC, wrong journal. Some have similar names to established, respected journals and sometimes falsely claim to have well-known experts on their editorial boards. If you, if we put a Google search for ourselves, there are chances that we would be part of editorial boards which, who never asked for our consent, right? So they put people in their committees without their consent too. अगर कोई हाई प्रोफाइल है या बहुत अच्छा छाप रहा है. Their websites are sometimes unprofessional, but no, now this is an old story. Earlier you could figure out from the website that it's not a good journal, but now they are creating websites as professional as the real ones. They have high acceptance rates of submitted articles and quick publication times owing to little peer review. They don't have peer review. Peer review is like a review process. So they don't send your papers for the review process. There's often no mention of author fees. Okay, sometimes they will not be upfront that there will be an article processing charge, right? So once you send your paper, then they will torture you with phone calls. Torture in the sense like we keep on getting these phone calls, no? Send us money, we'll send a link. So they will also hound you for money till you, in frustration, accept to publish paper. So frustrate नहीं होना, उनको सीधे बताइए मैंने गलती से भेजा था पेपर, I don't want to publish in your journal. Unless you yourself want to publish in their journal. But it's useless. Why would you want to waste your data? Entire publishing companies have bought up other publishing companies and produced almost entirely predatory journals. An example of one such company is Omics. Omics was a big group. Omics was a big group few years back, and what they used to do was they used to conduct sham conferences. They used to publish a lot of journals which were non-existent. Fine. And they would send invitations to people to be part of their panels and conferences, and once they if somebody agreed, and then they would ask for money. we require, जैसे scam regularly होता है ना कि थोड़ा सा
yes, पता करेंगे.
हाँ, इसके लिए एक लिस्ट है, वो usually update होती रहती है. The list is called Beal's list. ये वाली लिस्ट. What is the time? Fine. The list, Beale's list, contains a comprehensive list of predatory journals. So whenever you decide to publish your paper, so do not publish in the journals which are listed in Beale's list. Beale's list में हर वो journal का नाम है जो जिसमें publish नहीं करना है, publish नहीं करना है, right? Beale's list वाली list में. Right? So Beale's list contains a comprehensive list of predatory journals, right? Why do we call it as a as the Beale's list? Because in 2008, Jeffrey Beale, who was a librarian and associate professor at the University of Colorado, became aware of the growing number of questionable journals, and he was the person who coined this term predatory journal. So librarian थे, थोड़े से aware librarian थे ये, थोड़ा लाइक इन्होंने अपना दिमाग अच्छे से यूज किया, बिकॉज डेटा तो लाइब्रेरियन देखते ही होंगे ना, नॉलेज सेंटर होता है लाइब्रेरी, राइट? सो ही मस्ट हैव गॉन थ्रू सो मेनी न्यू journals that might have come to him, and then he figured out that there is hyper proliferation of journals, right? Hyper proliferation, right? There is a regular rate of growth and there is hyper proliferative rate of growth, है ना? So he must have figured out that there is a hyper proliferative rate of journals that are being published by publication houses. And then he decided to scrutinize them and he compiled a list called Beale's list. 45% of journals originated in Asia. So Asia is the topper, right? India and China lead it. India and China lead this practice. So, I mean, there's no surprise there. We are the most populous country. Both the countries are most populous, and the masses are not so aware of ethical practices. So, I guess that is why the numbers are high here. You can also use the journal blacklist created by Cabell's International. This is the journal blacklist. Blacklisted journals. Where would you find blacklisted journals? Cabell's list. As readers and as authors, we need to recognize predatory journals to avoid them. So, तीन लिस्ट आप यूज कर सकते हैं: Beale's list, Cabell's list, and this third site, thinkchecksubmit.org. Think, check, submit. Think, check, submit. If you remember the cartoon earlier, where we were showing you how to write ethically, it told you think, check, submit. So you'll go to thinkchecksubmit.org and you can figure out which journals you should publish in and which journals you should. All right. So then we have another database which is called as Retraction Watch. So we have a similar kind of citizen-run body in India. It's called IRW. In Integrity Research Watch or India Research Watch, I'm forgetting what this I stands for, but in India we call it as IRW. And its founder, Achal Agarwal, has featured in the top 10 science detectives in Nature. Nature, pata hai na? Nature is one of the best journals in the world. So this fellow, Achal Agarwal, has featured in the top 10 because he founded this citizen group, database-based group called as IRW. So they have come up with this term called as integrity index, institutional integrity index. So every institution would get a index. Every institution will get an index of integrity. So there's a formula which Lehman has given us. So according to that formula, they'll be able to figure out what the integrity index of a institution is. So it takes into consideration all the retracted articles too in the scores, right? So Retraction Watch is a database. What kind of database is it? It's a user guide to look for articles that have been retracted from the literature. Retracted means they don't have to be counted as useful research anymore. है ना रिट्रैक्शन समझ रहे हैं मतलब क्या है इसका वर्ड का रिट्रैक्शन
Removed from the public platform for the researchers to.
so the research article which was previously published has been retracted, removed from all the databases so that you don't have access to the wrong data, right? So retraction database maintains listing of all the papers that have been retracted till date, and it has live, live dashboard. आज के दिन में कितने retractions हुए हैं वो live dashboard है. इस पे जा सकते हैं आप team@retractionwatch.com पे अगर आपको ये सब देखने में इंटरेस्ट है. तो अगर इंटरेस्ट है भी नहीं आप अगर किसी भी साइंटिफिक प्लेटफॉर्म में ऐड करेंगे अपने आप को तो यू विल कीप ऑन गेटिंग अलर्ट्स ऑन योर ओन. इसमें ऑथर ही फिक्शनल है तो मजे की बात है, राइट? द पेपर गॉट दिस आई एम शोइंग यू अ केस स्टडी, राइट? Okay, so this is a nice amalgamation of predatory practice, not nice, unethical amalgamation of predatory practice and how we have used Retraction Watch to remove it, right? So we 8 papers were retracted from literature because the author was found to be fictitious. Okay. ऑथर इस नाम का कोई ऑथर ही नहीं है जो उन 8 पेपर्स में उसमें डेटा ही खाली नहीं फैब्रिकेटेड था, उसमें ऑथर भी फिक्शनल थी. उन्होंने कोई क्रिएट कर लिया फिक्शनल कैरेक्टर और उसके नाम पे पब्लिश करना शुरू किया. अभी तो ये ठीक है, मतलब ऑथर फिक्शनल था तो उसके नाम पे पब्लिश करना शुरू कर दिया. प्रीडेटरी जर्नल था, उन्होंने पूछा भी नहीं, Abhi, like in good journals, whenever we submit a paper, we immediately get a email confirmation. We have to confirm. I'll get a email if today, for example, we submit a paper and I'm an author on that paper. I'll immediately get a email for confirmation that I am affiliated, I am an author on it. Right? तो उसी टाइम पे करने से OTP आता है, उसी तरीके से I have to confirm my affiliation. So obviously the poor author might not have, because author exist ही नहीं कर रहा है तो कैसे जाएगा उनके पास. तो ये तो कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है. अब प्रॉब्लम आप समझिए कितनी कॉम्प्लिकेट होगी कि if they use a real person, a real researcher as a fictional author, right? So they are stealing identities of people. Predatory journals can also do that. They can publish in your name, right? फिर आप प्रूव करते रहिए कि नहीं मैंने नहीं भेजा था, है ना? प्रूव तो करना पड़ेगा, right? I get my point. प्रूव कर सकते हैं हम, because हमने नहीं भेजा, हमारे अकाउंट, हमारा ईमेल भी नहीं है उसमें. We are not aware of, we were not getting any messages from the journal, right? But it's a real predation. They can create fictional authors. They can steal identities. I'll show you a case of stolen identity. So Elsevier journals are retracting 8 studies after learning that one of the authors on the paper was fictitious. Yoshiyuki Bangi. What a nice name to have, right? Right? So इनका नाम इन्होंने यूज करा. Another person का तो आइडेंटिटी ही यूज किया. इनको देखिए, Anka, she got a surprise, poor lady, right? It seems that she had, her identity was stolen. She was put as an author on papers where she had no contribution. A professor found her name on an article she did not write. So why did they choose her?
Is this will come in plagiarism?
Array, yeah, it will come in plagiarism, fabrication, falsification, identity theft, lot of unethical practices.
Then how we are going to cope up with this? I mean, like,
तो वो भी है ना problem. तो laws थोड़े से stringent होने चाहिए और there should be these people who are indulging in this practice should be made and given an exemplary punishment.
उनका क्या फायदा है ऐसे किसी की आइडेंटिटी को यूज करके?
वो जितने पेपर पब्लिश कर रहे हैं उतना पैसा मिल रहा है उन्हें. They're getting they're proliferating their publications. Somebody is reading those publications. You may not be. Will you be aware that Anka Turku has not contributed to the work? Because they have used a real person who is an expert in international affairs. They have put her as an author on a paper on international affairs. So would you be aware of every author, every person in clinical psychology? No. Right? So you would read a paper, maybe some high profile author is there. You would read their paper, right? So readership is giving them money. You may purchase the paper eventually. That is giving them money. It's all money. उनको जो ये कर रहे हैं, they're getting money out of it. Right? They're getting money by running these publication houses because they're paying. People are paying for publication. People are paying for subscription. I think I'll stop here because I don't want you to get flooded with too much of information. So the crux of the matter is you have a lot of resources where you can figure out how to find cloned articles, how to find predatory journals, what to do before publishing your data, what not to do before publishing your data, right? How to identify predatory journals, you would know that. And I have also given you examples of some case studies which are too strange, which we would not think of, right? है ना? Data manipulation तो समझ सकते हैं हम, बट ऑथर ही क्रिएट करना, दूसरे ऑथर की आइडेंटिटी चुराना नहीं हम सोच पाएंगे. A normal person who thinks straight cannot think of these things. So I mean, you have to give credit to these first people also, right? I would give them credit because they are using their brain at a higher level than any one of us, but in the wrong direction. Right, in the wrong direction. Maybe money is their aim, but they are creating a mess. I'll stop here. We'll talk about pre-publication databases and post-publication review databases in the next class. All right? That the Dean office will let you know because I'm not aware of what will be done in the vacations. From next week, we have vacations. So the Dean office should be able to tell you. They would send a message. Why? Have you marked your attendance? You should mark your attendance because yesterday also you people did not mark your attendance. The class was full and the attendance was not reflected. Do you have any questions? If you do not have any questions right now, you may have them later on or during the course of your PhD. You're always welcome to connect with me. It's not like that I'm not your supervisor. I'm your supervisor, right? So you don't have to just be confined to your PIs. If you have any queries at any point of your PhD, you're always welcome. Right?
Thank you.
Thank you.
चलो लेक्चर में चलो ऑल and I'll share the content also. ये आने देंगे पुल अप करेंगे ये हमारे नोटिस में आए हाँ हाँ वो पैकेट मुझे लग रहा है कि वही कर सकते थे लेकिन अब तो हम नाम से जानते हैं
अच्छा मुझे ये बताओ मुझे वहाँ जाना है ये
हम लोग क्लास पर कितने कर देते हैं
हम इसीलिए करते हैं हमने कहा कि हम सर से सारी चीजें पता करके आएंगे क्योंकि हमने कहा एजुकेशन डिपार्टमेंट वाले तो सो रहे हैं सारे टीचर्स स्टूडेंट्स के पास सो रहे हैं उनको कुछ अरे अवेयर कराएं क्लास में एक बार बच्चों को बुला के मतलब कि उन्हें डिस्कशन करें
अरे
वो तो उन्होंने किया था वो आज उन्होंने किया था इसमें क्वेश्चन उन्होंने किया था तो मेरा थोड़ा ऐसे क्यों बोला मैं पूछूं आपको ऐसा क्यों लग रहा है कि मतलब स्टूडेंट सवाल पूछा तो एजुकेशन से उसने स्टूडेंट क्वेश्चन पूछा था लेकिन वो उसका बेचारी नहीं कर पाएगा लेकिन अब आप हिसाब से स्टूडेंट क्वेश्चन का तो एजुकेशन का ही बंदा पूछ सकता है आप ऐसे कर रहे हैं आप बीइंग अ टीचर आप किसी सब्जेक्ट को डेडिकेटली क्यों बहुत डेफिनेटली खाना खाने चलते हुए का मेरी नमाज आज गई, बस फिर हम बैठे हम 6 बजे क्लास हो गई, 12:15 तो दो घंटे से वेट कर रही हूँ। देखिए आपको पढ़ना है हमारे पास ये क्लास हमने बताया पूरा बड़ा बॉडी हमने के लिए और यही नहीं हमने जब पूरी बात हो चुकी तो होता नहीं है टीचर को कि बच्चा मेरे इधर उधर देख रहा है, उनको होता है कि बच्चा थोड़ा कुछ जाने लगे, तो हम बस उन्हीं को देखते रहते हैं, फिर जब पूरा देख चुकी है हमारा प्रैक्टिस समझा चुके हैं, देखिए ये नोटिस आई है, सुनिए नेक्स्ट वीक से तो आपकी छुट्टी है। क्या कह रही हो? छुट्टी नहीं है भाई, उसमें आया था नोटिस, सर ने कहा था कि नेक्स्ट वीक से आपका होगा ना, बात करना आपकी कुछ क्या होगा इनकी मैम की है कोई टीचर नहीं, उनके पास नोटिस आई है यूनिवर्सिटी से, अभी साइन करके हम भेजेंगे और हमें लग रहा है अगले हफ्ते तो आपका वो विंटर ब्रेक उन्होंने खुद कहा कि अगले हफ्ते तो आप आएंगे नहीं, हमें लग सकते हैं तो आपका विंटर ब्रेक स्टार्ट हो रहा है, ये देखिए 26 से स्टार्ट 4 जनवरी तक, कहाँ से 3 जनवरी को पेपर पेपर है ना, वही जाएंगे लास्ट सर क्लास में तो 17 हाँ कभी कभी 17 मीन्स कपड़े पहनने हमें पता ही क्या लग रहा है कि ऐसे हो सकता है कि या तो पहले प्रेजेंटेशन हो जाए, हो सकता है पहले प्रेजेंटेशन हो जाए और फिर हम लोगों का रिटर्न एग्जाम वही हम सोच रहे थे जब प्रेजेंटेशन हो सकता है क्योंकि प्रेजेंटेशन के एग्जाम्स हो मतलब उसका भी प्रॉपर 20 नंबर का बात ये ना कि तीनों की प्रेजेंटेशन होगी ना, तीनों पेपर के मेथोडोलॉजी की भी होगी, एथिक्स की भी होगी और आपकी एजुकेशन की भी होगी। और मेथोडोलॉजी तो जो बता रहे थे कि प्रेजेंटेशन लाना मतलब पहले पेपर पता नहीं। अब एजुकेशन के हम लोग हैं तो हमारा तो जो प्रेजेंटेशन एजुकेशन वाला होगा एजुकेशन डिपार्टमेंट में होगा। भैया कैमरा लगा तो और यहाँ खड़े हो हेलो हेलो बंद कर क्या सोच रही हो? अरे वहाँ जाना था बर्फ सोच रहे हैं काफी दूर है, बहुत दूर क्यों जाना? अरे वो एक ना पर्चे पे वो करवाना था, दवाई डॉक्टर को कहा कि दवाई का कुछ करवाना, तो अगर जाना होगा तो कैसे जाएगा? मतलब कुछ नहीं है उसका, फिर हमने कहा किसी और को कहाँ पे है आपको बता